You are listening to the Urban Sports Scene with Wole and Ray Jeezy, and we are part of Empire Media. That's empiremedia.com. All right, folks, it's time for HBCU Corner. We have a treat for you. Right now, we have the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, the CIAA Commissioner, Commissioner Jacqie McWilliams. Hello, Commissioner McWilliams, and welcome to the Urban Sports Scene, and welcome to the Urban Sports Scene with HBCU Corner.
Wow, pleasure to be with you both. What an honor to be a part of this. You've had some great esteemed guests in the past, so thank you for inviting me.
I see you've done your homework, right?
I know, I could tell.
so we did ours as well. And I know this is about the CIAA, but like us, you got MEAC ties. And my man here, he loves Hampton's homecoming. So we want you to share a little bit about that experience, because that's something that's legendary for my friend Wole here.
This is so true.
Yeah. Well, look, this is the thing. No matter what HBCU you went to, no matter what homecoming you go to, it is part of the experience that everyone's going to say their homecoming is better than the other, right? But I think your connection to that homecoming based on it being your home, that's what makes it special. That's what makes it better for you, because it's the experience you have with the people that you went to school with. It's a community you kind of, became an adult in. And so, but we always love to visit other institutions' homecoming. But for me, Hampton University homecoming, which was a CIAA school before they went to the MEAC, and now they're in a different conference. But that's the place where I learned to be the best version of myself and to be the best student athlete I could be with some of the amazing individuals, and to see individuals that I could actually be one day, doctors and commissioners. And I mean, so, that's the experience you have. And homecoming reminds you of where we came from, honestly. It gives you that ground. It's weird though, because when you go back to homecoming, everybody looks like they're like 12, right? The young students, and you're like, dang, did I look like that when I was in college? Probably.
No, so true. So true.
So if you could have asked your younger self back then, I'm going to be the CIAA commissioner one day, would you have said, yeah, I can see that for myself?
You know what? I probably would have been like, "Ooh, what is the CIAA commissioner? Like, what does that mean?" I mean, honestly, when you ask kids now or young people who are student athletes, some of them, big conferences, they'll say, I want to play in the ACC, or I want to play I wanted just to play at Hampton. I didn't know about CIAA. I didn't really know about SWAC, even though my family went to Jackson State Southern, Alabama State. So but I didn't connect what SWAC meant, right? It's a brand and you connect it to events. You don't necessarily connect it to the total experience of championship. So yeah, I think, if somebody would have said that, I probably would have been curious, like, ooh, what does this mean? And maybe I would have thought differently, but I'm glad that, I had a chance to know that commissioner, or at least see him. He was the first full-time commissioner, Bob Mormon of the CIAA. So that was my commissioner as a student athlete. And I just remember having a really great experience as a student athlete. So, when I took this position, I always thought about my experience when I played when he was the commissioner. And I always heard people say that he was so focused on the student athlete. So, and everything that he did, even his family said it was surrounded by student athlete experience. And so I think I've strived to do the same. And so, yeah, maybe if somebody would say, you could be the next commissioner, I'd be like, what do they do? And as Sonia, my sister at the MEAC says, we commission. That's what commissioners do. We commission.
Well, you do a good job of commissioning then. You do a good job of commissioning.
There we go.
And it's okay. I thought Hillman College was a real HBCU for a long time. So
I think we all did. I think we all did.
So, also, I mean, you mentioned like you play ball at Hamptons. Who was like the team when you played ball? The team that you loved to play against at that time?
Oh my gosh, we had so many rivalries. And by the way, my team was inducted into the CIAA Hall of Fame this past year.
Awesome.
And also in the same year, I think it was in March, we got inducted into the Hampton Hall of Fame. We've been acknowledged because as the 1988 Division II National Championship team, but not be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it's really special because all 17 of the players, all of us are accounted for, all the coaches are accounted for, all the support of the team is accounted for, and to be together, I got goosebumps thinking about it. But when I think about the teams that we play, like we were 33-1 my freshman year, and we lost. We never won the CIAA tournament. So I've never won a CIAA basketball tournament. I won a volleyball tournament too, but not a basketball tournament. And so what to win a CIAA basketball tournament is like having ownership of the basketball national championship of the year, right? So we didn't win, and the team that we lost to was Virginia State in the CIAA basketball tournament. And then when we got in the first rounds of the playoffs, we beat them by like 20-something points, something crazy. And we went hard and won the national championship. And Norfolk State was our other rival. So CIAA, to me, anytime you play, like they're all rivals, but the home by the sea against a Norfolk State, like that's a battle. That's the battle of the bays for real in any sport. And then, Virginia State, I think that rivalry has always been big too. Anything that's close to you within an hour and a half is always your rivalry. So Elizabeth City wasn't far, but for Hampton, I would say Norfolk State, Virginia State to me was our big rival. For me as an athlete, I thought like you needed to be ready to ball to play them sisters because they ball. Norfolk State women, Virginia State women. I mean, and I still know some of them. I see them like just by chance. Whether it's at the tournament or here in Richmond. I ran into one of the coaches just at the Wawa one day, and I was like, oh my gosh, so but we all recognize how talented during that time, how these women played the game, and there was always a level of respect for how we played. But when we played, we went hard. I can remember our team coming off the bench to fight in Norfolk State. I did it because I was like, them sisters are big. Like I know I can hold myself together, but I'm trying to get in the game. I ain't trying to like be out the game. So I knew my place to stay on the side. Not that I wouldn't tell them, I'm just saying.
I got you.
Freshmen, we let the big girls handle the big
I know that. I know that's right. So you mentioned the CIAA basketball tournament. It's one of the biggest events in HBCU sports, period. It moved to Baltimore after several years in North Carolina. How has the Baltimore experience been so far? How has the Baltimore experience been so far?
It's been a charm. I mean, it's a charm city.
Charm city. I like what you did there. I like what you did.
It's like, as the mayor would say, it's like crabs in Obey. Like we have been able to find a rhythm together by making impact culturally, just figuring out what the gaps are and closing those. I mean, after our first year, and I think people forget, like we came out of COVID and trying to run the tournament. So Al Hutchison, who's the president of Visit Baltimore, we just said, look, if we can get the teams in the venue and make sure people are safe, then everything else will happen. And so I think being intentional in a city about what's most important to you, and that's the people. And if you are intentional about serving and making sure that the people are safe through public safety, making sure that the fans are safe in the venues and that the experience in the venue is great and that you give the best experience you can get in our event, if you take care of that, then the numbers will happen. And so, this year we announced last week, our economic impact was close to $30 million. I mean, in the second year. And that's what moving to digital tickets, where everybody's like, oh my God, digital. Yeah. I'm like, nobody prints tickets anymore, people. So at the CIAA, that's a big transition, even though the rest of the world has already done it. There's just something about our conference and tournament when we make a shift and change, our fans sometimes just freak out. But I think once they get into it, they recognize that it's probably the best business decision for us to manage expectations. So it's great. Baltimore it's a wonderful city. I worked at Morgan State before, so I lived there, and I love like going downtown. I love urban cities, period. I just like seeing us and the cultural aspect. I love going to the restaurants and we're serving. I love going into the hotel. I'm being greeted by people who look like me, the general managers or leaders. I mean, so it's a very diverse connection, and you never feel like you're not welcome. And I think Baltimore the first year was not really clear, and I kept saying, y'all not gonna be ready, and they weren't completely. Restaurants weren't open late, you know, transportation was kind of bottled up. And in the second year, they did exactly what we needed them to do, and people came. And we still have work to do, but I'm excited about working with them. We extended through 2026, which is, you know, something that I would say debated about earlier. We just said, let's get the 2-year extension and then evaluate how we do this year and make sure that both parties are feeling good about the partnership.
So how big was it they had the support of the governor of Maryland, Westmore?
I mean, it's everything. But you know what? It's everything. We had the support of the governor before Governor Moore, just in a different way. The financial commitment to visit Baltimore. I mean, this is a $3.5 to $4 million commitment and investment by the city and the state in order to help us deliver everything from venues to programming, locally, programming, nationally, whatever it is that we're doing. I mean, it's a partnership. So when you have the state involved, meaning even them putting in the liquor license, you know, not a lot of events do that, right? And that was very intentional to make sure that we could at least control and understand who was coming in the city, and that those event holders would also be returning back to a conference that allows them to be in the footprint. And so that's a big deal. You know, the business, the minority Black women business enterprise, I mean, there's about $1.1 million spend opportunity, I mean, that they were able to aggregate. And so that is state, local, region, DMV area, but mostly city of Baltimore. And that partnership means everyone. Governor Moore is a delight. The mayor is a delight. And the community has been committed to making sure that we can run this tournament. I think we all see the benefits, right? So when they win, we win, but the city wins, the community wins. The impact, I mean, we gave 500 pairs of shoes to a middle school for our Samaritan's Feet partnership and distribution. We gave out just recently, the Panhellenic groups gave about, I think it was over 1,000 blankets or something. They gathered that for the homeless. And so, you know, community to me is important. And so whatever we do, we have to leave footprints. We can't just go in a city and take all this $3.4 million that they're investing in marketing and venues and programming, but we need to be able to make sure that we're returning something back when we leave the city each year.
So also Commissioner, do you ever see yourself or, you know, the tournament moving back to North Carolina?
I think the tournament can move wherever city brings in the investment and sees value. I mean, I think wherever we go, whether it's, you know, Baltimore, or we've been in Richmond, we've been in Greensboro, we've been in Winston-Salem, we've been in Durham, we've been in Norfolk, we've been in Hampton. If you just track the history, the tournament has grown so much since all of those years. Even when I played in Norfolk Scope, and I played in Richmond Coliseum. And so, you know, we're in a venue that is absolutely incredible. They've renovated that venue, significant investment. It's bright, it's airy, it's basketball. It's a entertainment venue, but they created a space for it to be a basketball venue. So, you know, I think when we go out to bid, if the board decides to go out to bid in a few years after we get through this Baltimore deal, it'd be interesting to see what cities are interested in bidding and what investments, because we have our standards of things that you must do in order to do this tournament. And so my hope is that, again, and it requires state involvement. It requires city involvement. It requires political involvement. Investors, private and public sector. And unless the board changes the format of the tournament, we have 13 schools now. So we'll have 26 games next year, starting on Monday, ending on Saturday. It's a grind, but there's nothing like watching these young people play their craft. And there's nothing like crowning championships and seeing the tears, blood, and sweat that they give to win a CIAA championship. Elizabeth City women in history have never won the championship. In my lifetime, I don't know if I really do that, because I know I lost, but I'm just saying, like, am I bitter? Yeah, kind of.
Well, bitter kind of.
Yeah, but Elizabeth City to see Lincoln University women. So you're seeing the parity in this tournament, and for them to come into a city and feel like they're part of a community, I think that's a big deal for the experience that student athletes should receive.
And my friends who are in big Greek life, they love it in Baltimore. So I'm not. Yeah. So I know that because we're local, we're closer to Baltimore. I mean, we're in the DMV region of it, but we're close to Baltimore, and they love it. They're happy don't have to drive all the way to North Carolina. They're happy.
I mean, we have a lot of our alumni from our institutions are from the DMV in Northern. I mean, if you just think historically, back in the day, I mean, if you couldn't go to school at the University of, where'd you go? You went south to the institutions that allowed Black people to get their education. And so some stayed and some moved. So I think I'm very clear as the rest of our board and members, specifically our board, we know the data. We know where our alumni come from. And I think we've been able to aggregate our new demographic of fans by age as well, and not just schools and the footprint, but to really try to get this younger generation involved in the CIAA differently than we have in the past. So it's a lot of work because we're trying to capture, that newborn baby all the way to that season 55 tournament. I've been here 60 tournaments and I don't want no digital ticket. I'm like, somebody print this man a ticket for me, please. I get it, sir. I get it. You ain't gonna curse me out today.
Yeah, man. Change is hard for people sometimes, man. Change is hard.
But I think the one thing I love about our conference, and maybe it's through my leadership and working with the board, that we are empathetic to that. We know that, I have to think about myself because maybe one day I'll be that way. Right now, I'm all in the digital space. Show me where the app is. Like, I want easy access.
Yeah.
But who knows what it will look like 20 years ago when I go to the tournament and you tell me I have to do something else. I gotta scan my eyes or something. Like, what? So I just think we all have to be thoughtful about what the trends will be and how do we integrate the new generation into that, but we don't leave out the past, because I'm dealing with the past, the present, and the future. And so I think strategically, I'm always thinking about how to make sure that we do that in a way that's thoughtful and it's empathetic. And sometimes we win at it, sometimes we don't.
That's kind of a good segue, because we want to ask you about working with the other HBCU conferences. You mentioned Commissioner Stills earlier, we just had Commissioner Holloman on as well. And everybody's excited about this partnership and how it factors in terms of strategy and growing, each HBCU conference moving forward. And what's your perspective on that, and how will that positively impact the CIAA?
Yeah, for me, it's like a dream. It's like the reality of what I've always thought about, that we are better together. They would call me the god sister of the group. I'm like, y'all making me feel like I'm the aged out one, which is not fair. But if you think about the four commissioners, I've been here 11, it'll be 11 years. I've been finishing 10 years, but finishing 11 on September 4th. And McClellan is finishing up maybe his third or fourth year. Sonia finishing one or going on her second year, and Holloman his 1 year. So probably out of all of them, I've worked in the national office, I've worked Division I, I've done championships. I've been in the infrastructure, and some of them have been as well. And so I think maybe the knowledge base of being in as a commissioner, but been in college athletics for 30 years and very intentional about serving the way that I have. It's probably helpful that I'm able to help guide some of our conversation, and what they bring, we're extremely powerful. We're like 4 power. We call ourselves the 4 power, conferences. And I think there's such great opportunity to identify those things that really work collectively together, without losing the things that we're doing individually for our conferences. So it's exciting. We meet once a month. We're always listening. If everybody has an HBCU presentation or, want an opportunity, I think we're very thoughtful about what those partnerships look like. We can agree. If one doesn't agree that we should partner, none of us will agree. we all stay collectively connected in that way so that it makes sense on what we're doing. I think the collaboration for our student athletes and, you know, whether SIAC and SWAC are doing something because of the location, CIAA and MEAC are doing something, or we're all doing something at the Celebration Bowl, or CIAA and SIAC are thinking about how to relive and revive our Pioneer Bowl, and, you know, what partners can help us do that, what makes sense. You know, I think there's a lot of good conversation. And I think you guys will continue to see some growth on what we can do collectively together. And we're doing some stuff. We just have to share the stories a little bit better. It's fun.
So also, I mean, and just to jump on that, you know, like, you know, we've seen in terms of PWIs, like the ACC Big Ten tournament or the Big East Big Ten tournament. Could you see yourself having that type of challenge or tournament in terms of basketball? I'll use basketball as an example, to have something like that for HBCUs.
We'd love to. I mean, and, you know, one of my presidents, Virginia State University President, Dr. Abdullah, he's my challenge of thoughts and strategy and opportunities. Like for him, just blow up everything and everything's HBCUs. But we know we're members of the NCAA and that we have Division I, Division II. So we have to be thoughtful. Our schedule is very different than theirs. So if we did a challenge, what does that look like? Because they might be able to start early, we can't because of the Division II life and the balance philosophy. They get distribution, we don't. We raise our money very differently. Not that they don't, but they get a higher distribution from the basketball tournament. We get a smaller one, but the way that it's paid out in Division II is by the number of sponsors, number of institutions you have, not how you win in the championship. So we're very a different makeup from Division I, II, and III. But I do think our conversations around, you know, the opportunities to have a big HBCU event. So interestingly, softball, golf, bowling, we have some of those things that are happening that people don't think about, that we think about basketball and football. But some of our other sports are already doing some collaboration from conferences for all of our conferences for our athletes to compete in. I think softball did like a softball challenge and invited SWAC, SIAC, MEAC schools, and it's awesome to see, right? You get to see that overlay. We've talked about this NIT end of the year. There's some promoters out there. I think that's the challenge for us, right? We like to see it, but having the bandwidth to do it, and if we did it, who does it for us? And how does the revenue work? I mean, so many people want to use our brands, but you got to pay for the brand, right? You got to pay for the marks. And so we have to be thoughtful about those partnerships that we would go in if we agree to do that. And what is the benefit back to us as conferences? And then what is the benefit back to our member institutions? So that's always the tricky part and challenge when you have these large ideas and want to do it. And you've got individuals who want to do it, but you know, you're kind of hesitant because you don't know if they're going to be able to sustain that programming based on sponsors and revenue. Because we've seen that happen and commitments have not been made for our institutions, and we're trying to protect that.
I think a CIAC, CIAA challenge would be dope, though. I'm just saying, like in the future, especially in the right location, it would be,
I think so
big.
too. I think so too.
But I want to ask you though, amongst the HBCU ranks, the CIAA arguably, I want to emphasize the word arguably, is like one of the most popular. What makes the CIAA conference so special, in your opinion?
You know, it's just like, I don't even want to say it, but the Howard Hampton, thing. Howard was founded before Hampton, right? So they say they're the real HU.
They do. I got a friend who went to Howard. They do. She hammers that to me too. Cause I talk like Ray mentions why I love Hampton. So I went to Hampton's homecoming. I just loved it. Just went there and I went to Hampton's homecoming and loved it. So I'm like, Hampton's like the HU, and she gets pissed at me. Like gets pissed at me.
And then they get then they were like, y'all at Hampton Institute.
Okay. Exactly.
So you gotta love it. I mean, but at the end of the day, as I was saying, you gotta give them. They were founded before us. I mean, but at the end of the day, we're both two amazing campuses and individuals with amazing alumni that come out of our campus. But that rivalry is like it's a good and bad rivalry at the same time, right? But I don't fall into it. But for the CIAA, we were founded in Washington, D.C. Our founding members were Howard, Hampton, Lincoln, Shaw, Virginia Union. So those are our five. So when you see our logo, our main logo, you'll see the 5 stars that represents our 5 founding member institutions. And so we have a piece of, those schools that really made CIAA who it was. And there's a lot of history behind. Shaw was the first HBCU in the South, right? And then you got Hampton in Virginia, Howard. I mean, it's Lincoln, the first degree institution, HBCU degree institution in the North. So when you think about the history and the build out of even the MEAC, that our institutions from the CIAA, that was intentional work to have a Division I representation and Division II in the NCAA. And you've got the break off of Morgan that was in Hampton, Maryland Eastern Shore in the CIAA, South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, Delaware State, all members of the CIAA. So, and there's history behind there. There are a lot of great athletes that participated in the CIAA that we try to capture, but years have passed. The MEAC is the brand for those institutions now. But honestly, CIAA was the start of it all for all HBCU conferences. We were the first. And so what makes it unique is that we were the first. And we get to tell the story of the build out and the breakout of what the first looked like. And it's an important place for a lot of different people. I mean, we're going on 14 years. The tournament is going on 78. The women's tournament is going to 49. And this tournament has meant the world to a lot of people. It's where it birthed NBA players. It birthed opportunities that many of us, the John B. McClendon, who was a part of finding the first basketball tournament in 1946 with 4 other men. I mean, it's just special. And I think our job is to continue to make sure that people know the history of that. It's not that we're better than anybody. I just think whether I'm here or not, CIAA brand alone makes people have conversations, right? Oh, my parents went to Shaw, or my mama went to Hampton Institute when the CI, or or my great grandma. I didn't go to an HBCU, but my daddy went to North Carolina Central, right? That's the type of conversations you get around CIAA, and we're able to capture legacy, leadership, and community, our 3 pillars, through this conference.
Thank you for mentioning UMES, because we are UMES alums, so thank you.
Yes, y'all have some history. I think y'all had either a track, we've got one of your track teams, or is it baseball that's in our Hall of Fame? I mean, or has been submitted. I have to go back and look, but yeah, I mean, there's all of those schools that were a part of the CIAA has a footprint in our family. And once you're in CIAA, you never leave. You might be in MEAC, but you still CIAA.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Steve Ray, we have 2 conferences. We're awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm in 3. I'm in CIAA, I'm in the MEAC, and now I'm in CAA. Like, what the heck?
So Commissioner McWilliams, what does being a HBCU commissioner mean to you?
It means everything. I mean, there have been other opportunities, but this was the dream job for me. This was the place that I started. This is the place where I always saw myself ending, and helping build and sustain a brand. That was the first. I mean, there's something unique about this conference. We are not just one of the largest tournaments in the country, but we have like 10 or 11 people on our staff to deliver this tournament and 12 other championships out of basketball. And it's special. I mean, I think there's the cultural relevance for me. Like I work for 13 board or presidents every single day that allow me to be the best version of myself every day. I'm not micromanaged. They trust me. I build the speed of trust with them, to build culture, to deliver everything that they've asked for, working on media rights, strategic planning, our Under Armour BSN deal, to keep the conference financially stable. It wasn't when I got here, to make sure that our student athletes have a great experience. And I don't have to worry or wake up every day wondering if I'm going to be received or accepted because I'm a female commissioner and I'm a Black commissioner. I just get to be who I am, and that's a leader, and that's a servant leader. And so it's exciting to be a part of an organization where I can live out my mission and passion every single day. In college athletics, it's sport. Like, I'm not a brain surgeon. My daughter's in a medical camp right now at Georgetown, right? And she wants to be a doctor. And I'm like, I am not trying to cut nobody. I just want to see some good athletes play, graduate, and go. Like, I think about Josh Williams, that's at Fayetteville State.
Kansas City now. They won Super Bowl.
State, there's a chance. They finally won the CIAA championship after being in it 5 years. And this brother, I've watched seniors. I've watched them, over the 10, 11 years I've been here, championships I've seen. I've watched these young people graduate and move on. So it's almost like, I can be really proud about the things that we have accomplished as a team to give them that experience and make sure that they're in position with their institution to have that exposure, to have the partnership with NFL and to have that combine or that legacy all-star game that they do in New Orleans. That opened up the door for a lot of and that's the kind of work that our partnership with the other 3 conferences, that's what we're doing. We're making sure that we're collaborating and getting the best exposure that we can for our student athletes.
Well, we definitely appreciate you having you on. You've already went over the time that was allocated to us.
I love to talk.
We do appreciate that. No, we appreciate that because I was scared like 15 minutes, but hey, she's going. We're going to go.
Because you got a busy schedule.
I know. We know
I
it.
do. I do.
But is there before we let you go, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just add that, when you think about our HBCUs and you think about our conferences, we are more than what people know us to be. Like, SWAC is not just football. CIAA is not just basketball. MEAC is not just basketball and football. And SIAC is not just football. Like, we are a total experience of brands to support the HBCU communities. And some, you don't have to go around us. Come to us and engage conferences in a way where we can support things to really enhance and amplify our brands and the experiences for our student athletes. But, most of us, where football or basketball is our primary revenue source, which it is for CIAA, we've got to sell tickets. And you'll see a lot of that this year in our promotions. I told my team, I don't talk about anything else. It's tickets. But we're going to do a community event. How we selling tickets? So we're giving back, but we need alumni and fans to give back too. So if you want great experiences, if you come to Baltimore, just don't go to the parties. Like, come party in the venue with us and share the experience for the student athletes. I guarantee you'll have a great time in the venue if you come. But make that total experience a part of buying a ticket and making sure that we can give back more to our student athletes and our membership when you do that, because the resources, that's what it's for. We're all nonprofits. I think people think we're for profit. No, we're not. We're nonprofits. And so we have to raise our money specifically in Division II in a way to deliver product every single day. And so our partnerships with Van Wagner and all of our sponsors, Nationwide and Food Lion, I'm giving them all plugs because they've been with us 25 years plus. And it's hard to sustain partners and who want to give into your scholarship fund and who want to deliver at your championships. And so it's important to have those partners, but it's also important to have your fan of alumni give back to your institutions and then give back to those events that give back to your institution. So it's a collaborative community effort in HBCU. So while we wearing our HBCU stuff, are you really giving back? Are you really making, UMES as alumni better than you left it because you got something from there? And that's what we should all be doing. And I give back to Hampton every single year. I give back in the scholarship fund. And I have a scholarship fund at the Temple University from a graduate there. So if you're an HBCU athlete, or not an athlete, a graduate, and you want to go to grad school, I'm encouraging you to go to Temple and get and apply for the Jacqie McWilliams Scholarship Fund to help support you. those are the things that we should do as we're trying to give back and build our own legacy as well every single day. It's important.
Dope. Well, thanks for being on HBCU Corner. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're helping us complete the mission of getting all the commissioners on this pod. So we thank you so much. Hey, Ray, it's the truth, man. We got to be
That's
on the
awesome.
mission.
You should have all 4 of us on at one time.
Oh, you know what? Ray,
scheduling
is hard, but we're gonna try to make this happen.
You can get us. You can make it happen.
Well, thanks again. I know you're busy.
Guys.
We appreciate you making time for us. We really do.
Thank you. You guys be well. Have a great summer.
Have a great one.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.